Hi everybody, this is Rod Saunders from Jew and Greek. Well, I didn't intend to do a second Kanye West video, but there have been some developments since the first one that made me want to do a follow-up. You might recall that in my previous video, I expressed concern about Kanye West's pastor being a graduate of John MacArthur's school, which would mean that he's probably a 5-point Calvinist. But in that same video, I said that Kanye West thinks for himself, which means that he's probably not going to allow himself to be sucked into a Calvinist bubble. Well, here we are just a few weeks later, and Kanye has performed for Joel Osteen's church in Houston. Now that's got to be devastating to these Reformed guys who were all giddy about Kanye being discipled by a man who teaches sound doctrine, because these same guys consider Joel Osteen a false teacher. Here's what the Calvinist Gospel Coalition said in their article after hearing that Kanye would be performing at Lakewood. The Osteen version of the prosperity gospel traces its roots back to the 19th century spiritual movement known as New Thought or Higher Thought. As the Encyclopedia Britannica explains, New Thought advocates believed in the immanence of God, the divine nature of man, the immediate availability of God's power to man, the spiritual character of the universe, and the fact that sin, human disorders, and human disease are basically matters of incorrect thinking. Moreover, according to New Thought, man can live in oneness with God in love, truth, peace, health, and plenty. That's not what Joel Osteen believes. As I've shown several times, Joel's theology comes from his father, John Osteen, who was a Baptist preacher who became Pentecostal after his daughter was miraculously healed, and became a good friend of Kenneth Hagin, who was the leader of the Word of Faith movement. There is absolutely zero connection between Word of Faith and New Thought, and many prominent Word of Faith critics who are honest will admit that. But the Gospel Coalition had to say something, even if it's not true, because Joel Osteen is stealing their trophy. Well, too bad. And of course, the haters on YouTube chimed in as well. Here's a few thumbnails of their videos. In fact, Kanye defended Joel while he was at Lakewood.
There's a lot of people in the Christian community that try to give Joel a hard time because when you turn on the radio, he keeps on showing you how good God is.
On top of all that, he also had a pastor from here in Tulsa speak at one of his events recently at the Forum in LA. Mike Todd, pastor of Transformation Church, opened for the event with a powerful word.
But the thing about God is he's a gentleman. The Bible says he stands at the door of your heart and he knocks. Hey, it's me, God, just trying to get in. Okay, I'll come back tomorrow. And he comes back again. I'll come back tomorrow. And day after day, year after year, season after season, the Bible says that God's grace, his unmerited, undeserved, unearned favor and kindness is chasing you down. And some of y'all are tired of running in this building. That's why you ended up at Sunday service.
Transformation Church was founded by Gary McIntosh, who worked alongside of Carlton Pearson before he went off the rails teaching universalism. Not exactly a church the Gospel Coalition would endorse. While he was in Houston, Kanye and his choir performed for the Harris County Jail. And here he is performing for the women. You can see the Spirit of God at work on the faces of the inmates in those clips. At this point, I think it's safe to say that Kanye isn't confining himself to reformed environments, but is going wherever he feels that the venue is fitting for his message. Now, don't misunderstand me. There are things about Kanye that concern me, such as his comments about Mormons and Catholics. But I'm hopeful that in time he'll become more theologically astute and recognize the error in their doctrines. But for now, I'm happy to see that his efforts are bearing fruit for the kingdom. So that's my update on Kanye's spiritual journey. At this point, I'd like to pivot from talking about his message and talk about his music. I want to show you some clips of some of his songs in these Sunday services. Kanye uses ascending inversions and crescendo to build the energy in this first song called Selah. That's hardly a new technique. It's been used for centuries, but the blending of that technique with hip-hop and choreography is uniquely Kanye. And what a sound! Now, I've been playing music for half a century. I started on the piano at 8 and took up the guitar in high school. I've sung in choirs and played bass, keyboard, and guitar for a lot of churches. My sister was a vocal performance major, and so was my niece, who sings opera. Alyssa Van Camp, mezzo-soprano. I'm very proud of her. So I know a bit about music. The sound that this choir gets is first rate. Kanye clearly understands gospel music and has assembled a team that can produce the sound he wants. This might sound politically incorrect, but I think most musicians and singers would agree. You can take the same choral arrangement sung by a black choir and have it performed by a white choir, and it won't sound the same. I don't know if that's due to genetics or culture or a combination of the two, but it's true. There is at least one white guy in Kanye's choir, but for the most part, these are people who probably grew up singing in the choir in a black church, and they understand gospel music. That's why they sound like they do, and that sound just gives you chills. About 20 years ago, I was asked to play guitar at an event that was part of the annual Word Explosion Conference in Tulsa. When I showed up to play, I didn't know any of the musicians. I set up my guitar and amp and was getting ready for rehearsal when a black guy sitting next to me who was playing bass introduced himself. I told him my name and we shook hands, and he complimented my guitar. Now, there's nothing particularly great about my electric guitar, but it does have a nice blue metal flake paint job that most people notice. He asked me if he could play it. Ordinarily, I wouldn't hand my guitar to a total stranger, but in a situation like that, where I know that I'm dealing with an accomplished musician, I said, sure, I handed it to him. He started playing it, and he blew me away. He was doing a combination of percussion and rhythm and melody in a purely funk style. I'd never heard anybody play the guitar like that in my life. I asked him how he learned to play that way, and he said, oh, everybody plays like this where I'm from. Well, where I grew up, nobody played that way. It was just a part of the culture where he grew up to play funk and R&B. I would have loved to learn to play that way, but I doubt that I could have ever gotten the hang of it. My point in talking about this is that Kanye clearly understands the power of African American gospel music, as well as hip-hop, rap, funk, and R&B. And his genius is now being showcased in this unique gospel presentation called the Sunday Service, where he blends these different genres with traditional sacred and classical music, and even a little jazz, along with choreography in a way that is undeniably effective.
Just like Mike, looking for a bright light. Tingle with your life like riding on a white bike, feeling like a sight bike, pressing on the gas, supernova for a night light, screaming at my dad. That's how the rhythm works. That's how the rhythm works.
Here, he inserts Christian lyrics to the tune O Fortuna from Karl Orff's Carmina Burana. Kanye assembled a writing team to put all of these songs together in a brilliant collaborative effort. Even Brad Pitt, who used to identify himself as an atheist, has attended some of these Sunday services and felt inspired enough to announce that he's no longer an atheist. Katy Perry and Orlando Bloom have also been spotted at Sunday services. Kanye West has been through a lot of pain in his life. His parents divorced when he was 8, and his relationship with his father was strained until his recent conversion. His mother raised him after the divorce and helped him get his career started, and then shortly after he made it, she died. And he's had multiple mental health incidents due to his bipolar condition. He believes that God allowed him to experience all of this suffering to help him in carrying out this calling in life. Now, that could be true. Beethoven had a lot of pain in his life. He never married because his fame kept him around the aristocracy, and he kept falling in love with women of noble birth who couldn't marry him because he was a commoner. He had anger management problems and drinking problems. On top of all that, he lost his hearing while composing his Ninth Symphony. He confided in a friend that he had contemplated suicide, but decided that he would keep on living for the sake of his art. His pain came through in some of the most incredible music ever composed. It seems that now Kanye is doing some of his greatest work. His album, Jesus is King, sold over 250,000 copies in the first week, along with nearly 200 million streams. Now, all of this could end tomorrow, I know. Kanye might do a 180 and go back to his old ways, but I'm hopeful that this will be an enduring commitment on his part. For now, I'm just rejoicing that regardless of how legitimate Kanye West's conversion is, the gospel is being preached and lives are being touched by what he's doing. We've seen other celebrities like Brian Head Welsh from the band Korn and the actor Craig T. Nelson announce their commitment to Jesus, and apparently they mean business. So maybe we're seeing the start of a spiritual awakening within the entertainment industry. So what are your thoughts? Do you guys like Kanye's music? Do you feel that he'll still be doing this in 5 years? Will other artists follow suit? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.